Hello, ladies and gentlemen of the internet and of YouTube. Welcome to Jibber. I am your host, as always, Skadarmas, otherwise known as Tone Shift. With me today, we don't quite have a full house, or one short of that. First up on the list, we have one of the people in the British corner. We've got Darkness.
Hey, everybody.
Give me just a second. I need to turn down the user limit here because one slot is unfilled. We don't want someone jumping in midstream. All right. Next up, we have one of the good friends and a longtime patron at this point. We've got Hades.
Hello there.
Yep. We've got a Starfish going by the name of Patrick, otherwise known as Soviet Starfish, who's kind of staring at the next guy on the list, who is just staring into your soul, named Paladin.
Hello.
Hello.
I would like to introduce you to my new company. We specialize in medical cocaine.
Sure. That's a
Back
thing.
to your salt corner.
That is a thing you're totally doing. And last but totally not least, one of the other Brits of Jibber, sitting across from Darkness as though just having a jolly good time, the author of the Change series and the Soaring on Little Wings, which, is nearing completion here on YouTube, Tom117Z.
Hey, up top.
Yep. Have I missed anyone? I don't think I have.
Yeah, you missed Ben.
No.
Oh yeah, Ben is stupid.
Oh.
Ben is stupid.
Bad running gag.
Ben,
That will never die.
Ben, the only person on this show that gets bullied more than I do.
Like, the Ben joke has become so
Yeah.
instinctual now, he almost said it in a freaking D&D-ish Final Fantasy session.
Yo, and we'll be talking about that here in just a couple minutes. But first of all, we got all this to get through. So, how's everyone's week?
Doing good. Got a new mouse. I'd been on a slightly psychopathic killing spree in a video game, and yeah, now I'm here.
I've just kind of existed.
Yep.
All right. Yep. My week was a decent one, all things considered. We finally got around to playing that Final Fantasy D6 campaign. First session. Got that in yesterday. And also yesterday I recorded the next chapter of the Patreon exclusive reading Bug in the Basement. So, excuse me.
You just posted another chapter of.
Yep, for patrons only. The whole reading will go up on YouTube when it is done, much like Soaring on Little Wings. But that's a topic for another time. Sadly, we only have 2 pre-written topics for today's episode.
I've thought of another one.
Oh, yeah? What?
We haven't done an update on Twin Peaks in a while.
Oh, yeah.
We have not.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
We actually made
A
some
lot has
progress.
happened. A lot has happened. Oh dear. Oh god.
I don't even remember where we left off last time we were talking about this thing.
Last time we left off, I think it was day 1 still.
I think it was the end of day 1 with the whole frozen pony in the lake thing.
Yeah,
think
okay.
so.
Well, we can talk about that after everything else. So, yeah,
Yeah.
all right. Fair enough. Okay. But for now, let's move on to the first of the prearranged topics we managed to figure out for today. And that would be the FFD6 game itself. We're not going to talk about the rules or anything of the system in this recap because really the audience probably isn't going to give a shit about that. Really, I think it's more prudent to just recap the events of what happened. I kind of wish Lumina was here because she was the only other person who was present at that aside from, Hades, Darkness, and Tom. If Lumina was here...
She's playing a video game right now.
Yes, she is. I'm very disappointed.
We can scold her later.
Oh, yeah, totally. She'll know she's
How
scolded when she
dare you
watches this.
play Lena Hyde's
How dare you miss
Well,
out?
it is.
How dare you miss out on plugging the fact that you're the mascot of our campaign?
Oh my god, that character is my favorite, and I'm playing as Little Wing. God damn it.
Yeah. So,
My character's still fascinated by her.
oh yeah.
Oh.
So,
You all are.
So for context, Lumina is playing as a cyborg chocobo with an adorable childish voice and mannerisms to match. She's
Now our group mascot.
yeah, pretty much. Which is surprising because she's actually kind of intimidating as far as chocobos go, being a black chocobo with crest feathers and a red cybernetic eye, and just one of her legs is cybernetic and part of her head is encased in metal. Out of everyone in the group, she's probably the most intimidating, but she's a smash hit with the kids. Because
It's a chocobo,
it's a
and it talks.
it's a giant talking chicken. Yes,
That
On
takes
the
kids for
battlefield,
like chicken
chicken
rides.
weapon.
yes, exactly.
Chicken rights.
But around children, she's the most wonderful enjoyment to everyone.
Oh god.
So Rocket. So the character's name is Rocket. Kind of coincidental, given that there's like this biologically created raccoon in Guardians of the Galaxy named Rocket. But
There's obviously no resemblance or anything like that.
there's no
'cause I don't
inspiration
remember
here.
what-
Yeah,
I
and there's
don't
no
remember
inspiration.
Rocket from the Guardians having any cyborg abilities. Plus, he's tiny. He's a
But
fucking
but
raccoon.
he is biologically engineered. He's artificial. He was created. He wasn't born.
True.
Anyways,
True.
now then, so the other party members. Ow! Just dropped a flash on my foot.
I don't remember that party number.
Yeah.
I don't remember flashlight dropping on your foot.
Shit, ow. Is that a new one?
That is a new one. Is that its ability? Dropping flashlights on your
Shut
foot?
up.
Shush.
So, these fine gentlemen, Hades
women.
plays as
Technically.
whatever. These fine
Yeah.
people, Hades plays as the group's Dark Knight named Thanatos, who fights with a scythe.
Yee.
And Tom plays as the group's Ranger, an Elvon Ranger named Neothil, who is based off of Little Wing from Soaring on Little Wings.
Basically, it's Little Wing.
It's
Well,
based-
it's Little Wing in that similar personality. She's lived much of the same life up until the equivalent of joining the Wonderbolts, though it's the old Batea Rangers here. The difference is she doesn't remember a past life or anything, and there is a kind of a thing with a mysterious figure she's having visions of, but I have no idea what's going on with that.
yeah.
How he's going to twist
Yeah.
that whole Penumbra storyline.
I'm still trying to figure. I'm still trying to figure out how I'm gonna twist it. I know.
I swear to God, if we get like this lady, this really tall lady in a black robe and hood, just following us around every now and then.
That's kind of what Lil Wing, I call it Lil Wing still. Neothil is having visions of on like a. It was just going to be like the same Starfield that I kind of envisioned for the realm between worlds, though Brian had me change to Golden Stars. I don't understand the significance of that. So
it may or may not play in with one of the many different ideas that I have lined up for this. It all depends on how I decide to twist it, which I'm still trying to figure it out. On the one hand, I don't want to just make it a carbon copy paste, but on the other hand, what else am I supposed to do with that?
yeah. I'm just excited whatever you do. It's refreshing not to know a Lil Wing story.
Yeah. Well, at any rate,
I just need to keep an eye out for the Misty XP because the ship must live.
and Darkness is playing as the group's paladin, human paladin.
Yeah.
An actual paladin.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
What a twist.
Up yours, Hades.
I'm not gonna let that joke die now.
So
Anyway, so
Can-
the
can we talk about how Hades looked at a barrel for a while?
oh, I'll get to that. So the way that
I'm
so
memorized by a barrel.
oh yeah, so the way the session basically started, the group all sort of woke up on this beach next to the docks of the city of Marasu, which is a city inhabited by a bunch of cat people called the Mithra. The city was under quarantine. They did not know this, and the ship they were coming in on ignored the warnings of quarantine, and to prevent infection spreading or anything else not great happening, the ship was destroyed for refusing to comply with the turnaround order. So it
Fire
was,
all the guns.
yeah, the ship was blasted into bits, and the party were the only survivors. Blank's character, the Moogle engineer of the group, was not actually present for last session, so I know what happened to him. We're just going to have to wait for him to join up next session, which will be in a couple weeks, to explain how the fuck that happened.
We'll just have a little fuzzy thing flying through a window. Are you joining us now? Yeah, cool. Here we go.
Yeah, it's like you're walking down a street, all of a sudden from up the street below you hear, and a Moogle goes flying
Okay.
by in a panic, being chased by a bunch of infected people, like, eat it! We're starving! And then they disappear down the street, like, what the fuck? Blank,
Okay,
you're in.
Here's something that'd be funny. We get the Moogle in, and then the kids all decide, okay, which is cool, which is cuter, the freaking Chocobo that talks or the Moogle?
Yes.
Rocket.
Rock.
Anyways.
Siding with Rocket on this one.
Anyway. Well, you haven't even met Cogmog yet, but anyways.
I don't care. Rocket wins by default.
Sure. Anyways. Doesn't help that Blank just has a really deep voice, so. Anyways.
He's not going to compete with Lumina's voice. Lumina's voice. Like, there's no even trying. It's
When
too
is it
cute.
meant to be funny? There's a little cute character, but it turns out to have a deep voice.
All be mine.
Boom, boom,
Why are
Kupo.
you laughing?
Boom, boom, Kupo. Boom.
It's like the toaster from Old World Blues.
Anyways, back
It
to...
tries to be intimidating, but it's not.
Yeah, well, let me get back to the summary here. So, the party, that after spending a moment to exchange names and ruminate on what happened to the ship, they decided they needed to get further into the city and figure out what the hell's going on. So, what they wound up doing is they had to get back up onto, like, the actual streets of the city. The bit of beach they were on was not directly connected to any path that would lead up to the street, so they had a little bit of a wall to climb, 15 feet high. Tom's character, Nee, was able to just climb that wall with relative ease, being a ranger, athletic, agile, good dexterity and athletic skills. She made it up to the top, no problems. She helped Thanatos up, but then, there was the problem of trying to help up the Chocobo. I thought that a good solution would have just been to have everyone stand on the Chocobo's back and the Chocobo could lift them up because Chocobos are fucking tall. But instead... Alcier, the paladin, decides to pick up the horse-sized chicken bird and throw it. Throw her at the top of the fucking wall. One, he's a paladin. Holy shit. I should not have allowed him to do that, or at least made the DC much higher, but I didn't.
But do not worry.
So who's the
he's
paladin
had some
now?
injuries doing that.
So he throws this horse-sized chicken up onto the wall, and then they're trying to help him up. And Rocket, the Chocobo's like, in a moment of sympathy, is like, he helped me get up here, I should help him. She reaches down with her not mechanical leg. Big mistake, because her mechanical leg was still having short out issues because she was still coated in salt water from being in the ocean. There was a little bit of a short circuit in her leg, a spark flew out, her leg buckled, and she fell right back.
Fail in a roll.
Yeah, and that's what it was.
Right back.
She rolled a critical failure, snake eyes, and fell right back to the beach.
And then...
And while this was all happening, while they were trying to get that up, Nee wound up turning to Thanatos at one point and was like, go find us some rope. So Thanatos went out, rolled Snake Eyes himself for his scavenge check, found a barrel of toys and just stared at it for a minute, like reminiscing about his past before forgetting what he was doing and coming back.
I blame fate.
And then Lucia went to look for a rope after he went up so that we could help the bloody Chocobo. And it was right past the barrel, just right there.
Alcier went there. And then the best part is when they rolled to pull Lumina's character up, when they went to pull Rocket up, they rolled successes just across the board. She barely even needed them to tug her. She was like, she's not going to be bested by a fucking 15-foot wall. She kicked off the ground and just sailed right over it.
Why didn't you do that the
Why
first
did
time?
you just do that in the first place?
Well, because one, she was still groggy and stunned, and she wasn't offended yet. The wall had personally offended her when she fell over it.
In reality, it's just roll. Rolls.
So it took us a good 15, 20 minutes.
Oh, it spends most of that first 40-minute episode.
Yeah.
So yeah, it took us that long just to get off a beach.
Yeah, about half an hour.
Granted, there was the introduction to the campaign itself in that time, and also character introductions and character interactions.
Mm-hmm.
But so after that, they made their way to a local tavern, expecting there to be people, but there were no people until they went behind the bar and found a corpse.
And there was no booze.
There was one booze.
Which Rocket
It was
still
a-
has.
Yeah,
Always keeping that close.
yeah,
It
Rocket's...
was freaking like half rotten scotch or whatever. I don't know.
It wasn't super old scotch, and scotch is one of those drinks that gets better with age.
Please don't get drunk, little bird.
Little. Nothing little about it.
I'd say,
Like,
can
you
chocobos
bird.
get drunk?
I imagine
Totally.
they can, but I imagine it would probably work better if they
And
were
this
just eating
one's
like
cybernetic, so
Yeah. Anyways,
Well, it depends which part's cybernetic.
she has rocket propellers under her wings, although they're currently not functional.
we need to get those fixed.
Well, I mean, we got an engineer
Well,
coming in. Anyways.
yeah, unfortunately, Nee's training didn't involve working with engines. It was mostly
That's
shooting
kind of the
things.
perfect time once he does jump in. He
Thanatos
comes in
just
and
kills
tries to
things.
help Rocket back to full strength
Hmm.
by fixing all the mechanical parts.
Yeah, I mean,
He comes in, gets Snake Eyes, it activates and burns him alive. The end.
that would
Wow.
suck. Anyways, anyways, they scout out the rest of the tavern, and eventually they find another person, a survivor of the whatever the strange things happening in the city, huddled in a corner in a fucked up room. Things start getting a bit darker here. They try to get this seemingly psychotic man to calm down and explain what's happening, and he winds up going into a rage before he can fully explain that and attacks the group. He doesn't really get very far, though. He doesn't even get in an attack roll before he's down to 2 hit points and screaming on the ground with an inverted leg.
Lee just pulled out a crossbow because she was ready for it. Once again,
Yeah.
I'm trying to go full on what our training would be.
Yeah.
She shoots him in the shoulder, and then it was Lucia or Thanatos.
What it was is Nee shot the guy in the shoulder with a crossbow. Thanatos came in and sliced his other shoulder with his scythe, and then Rocket came in and inverted one of his legs with a prompt kick to the knee.
Yeah,
Yeah, needless to say, he was pretty
felt kind of bad.
We were defending ourselves.
Anyways, after that, the group decided, yeah, we're not going to keep attacking this guy. They did some, magic. They tried to heal him up, get some info, but he wound up succumbing to his injuries and his illness before he could say anything.
Had to
Yep,
pull
tried my
Lucia
best,
back from
but
being
failed.
infected.
Another life lost.
Yep, Elsier. They spent a few minutes talking to each other and getting to know each other a little bit after that, and then they met a Numu named Tam Uman, who happens to be a white mage graduate from the Academy City of Anima, which is like the best place to go in the setting to learn magic. It's where all of the best mages in the world in history have gone to study and learn and teach. And
Can I just say there are several points where you said Tom, and I had to.
Yeah,
Like,
I admit.
It threw me
I
for a
thought-
loop a bit.
yeah,
and
yeah,
I almost replied a few times.
yeah, I noticed that. But it's spelled Taam.
And there's
thought
the way
it
it's
was different
pronounced.
spelling.
Yeah,
So
Tam.
just a very
I thought you were-
Americanized Tom.
It was confusing because I thought you were saying Tom, and then you
Tom.
would say knee. It was like, are you talking about Tom or it's like, I don't know.
In this context, if I say Tam or something that sounds even remotely like Tom, assume I'm talking about the Numu. Anyways.
Which I owe him an apology.
Yes. Anyways, so following that, they got some information from Tamuman about the situation in the city, that there's been this horrible plague that seems to be incurable from pretty much all conventional means, including magic, that's been ravaging the city for weeks. Winter is on its way, and everyone is expecting.
He made a Game of Thrones reference unintentionally. Winter is coming.
Yeah, everyone.
I groaned.
Yep. They were. I was wondering why you were groaning that until you pointed. I was like, oh yeah, that's right. We were, and everyone in the city was expecting like the ports to just straight up freeze over in the coming winter because the city's relatively far north. Excuse me. So they went out of their way to like try and fish as much as possible, and it was during this fishing rush that the plague broke out. No one's really sure if there's a connection there or not. Anyways, following that, they were brought into the uninfected parts of the city to meet with the island master, the guy in charge of the island, kind of like the mayor, named Laren Kane. And there they also met a Mithra lady named Mika, who seems to be an apprentice white mage under Tam. After that, the party was given free rein to just kind of go around the uninfected parts of the city for the rest of the day, try to relax, recuperate, and get themselves situated. Whereupon the following day, Laren has promised that he'll try to put them to work to try and get the situation resolved so they can GTFO.
We had some interesting interactions when we were walking around the city as well.
Yeah, just some character interactions. Namely, Tom's character and Hades' character, Nee and Thanatos, went to an inn, the Whiskers Corner Inn, where they're it's a nice inn, and while they were there, apparently Nee's character is into ladies, Tom's character Nee is into ladies, and spotted like a female dancer and just kind of watched out of the corner and was like, ooh, that's sexy. And Thanatos spotted this and made a comment. Like,
I know.
Another thing that's from Little Wing. So.
I couldn't help but notice that you were eyeing up that dancer. I was like, just straight to the cider.
Starts drinking and blushing.
Just chugging the cider, blushing profusely. It was great.
I want to see a picture of that. Work on it, Tom.
We'll see.
It's like it's just Lil Wing's character, like, and Nia Field's character now, where obviously when in military matters she can be a badass wonderful, but when it comes to private settings, she's just a freaking dork.
You know. Anyways, and then Alcier kind of went around, familiarized himself with a few like local apothecary clinics, and then eventually joined them at the bar. Meanwhile, Rocket went to one of the districts of the town called the Hanging Homes, which is an appropriate name since all of the homes there and all of the buildings there are quite literally hanging baskets large enough to be buildings. And the reason for this is they're designed in such a way that even if a heavy windstorm is to somehow tear them from their hanging positions, they're easy enough to put right back up and repair.
I just love Rocket's excuse why she wanted to go there. She wants to know how they hang.
So innocent.
Yeah, she wants to know how they
Cute.
hang, and she was just curious about the name. And while she was there, she met a couple of kids, who I initially did not actually intend on naming, but then I named them and gave them ties to the world, so now I gotta use them again.
They remind me of Lil Wing and I can't remember the course name now, but from like Twilight's Basement 2 fix that we did.
You mean Cirrus Ramble?
Cirrus Ramble, yeah, that version of Lil Wing and Cirrus Ramble, where one just doesn't give a shit and the other one runs away, shouting, "Evil! Evil!"
Or, in this case, he was kind of alarmed by the big black chocobo with a red eye. That suddenly
That dynamic remind me of them.
Yeah.
Oh
yeah.
no, it's Red Eye, run for your lives.
Yeah, well, anyways.
No.
Well, yeah, well, at any rate, so they had a few charming interactions. And after that, Rocket went to rejoin the group at the tavern, where they learned that, well, sadly, chocobos are not allowed to sleep in inns. They don't have the proper accommodations. Even
I tried.
Yeah, you
So
tried. You rolled really shit on your negotiation check, though. So in the end, Rocket had to sleep outside in the elements.
And she was so understanding.
Yeah.
She's so innocent.
She's like a kid.
She is it. It's
Did the chocobo at least get a blanket?
And she got to sleep.
No.
got a tarp.
I mean,
Does that count?
and she's covered in feathers.
Close
so, I mean,
enough.
Should be fine.
Yeah.
Should be fun.
And she has feathers galore, so she's fine.
And if the weather gets too bad, she's allowed in.
Yeah.
To like the common room. Yeah.
Yeah, the sort of central room when
Yep.
everyone else is already asleep. So long as the weather's shit, anyway. And after that, the sun went down, and we ended our first session with the end of that day. And, oh, wow. I said it before we started recording this episode of Jibber. I'll say it again. For a couple of novices, Hades and Darkness did surprisingly well. with role-playing their
Again.
characters.
And I still am having a hard time believing this because he's complimenting us, guys.
it's-
know that never happens.
It does, but it's not frequent. And considering both of you are complete novices, and all my experience with novices to D&D in the past have been these incredibly awkward interactions where my players were just desperately trying to figure out how the hell to even get into character. Like, it doesn't help that none of them were writers. Or like, I remember the first interaction being like, I set the scene, and they're like, "What do you do?" And then there was like this 20 seconds of silence as they were trying to figure it out. And then I had to start nudging them with suggestions like, maybe call your friend? It's like, oh yeah, that seems like a thing I should do. And then I call them, and it's like, I answer the phone, like 20 seconds past, like, well, interact! They had no idea what they were doing, even though I'd explained it before. You two, though, did surprisingly well by comparison. There were numerous points where you were kind of more quiet than would be ideal, and there was also a time when Darkness kind of tried to insert a detail when it came to Rocket, which, that's not your job. Let me do that.
Yeah, when you said that she got quite a following with, that's also it's a mix between your job as a DM to say what's going on, also Rocket's
Job to
like
actually.
Lily's job as the player to play it.
Yeah.
So to be honest, I misworded myself. I was meant to say something like, well, sure, she's not too far.
Yeah.
I guess you could say she might be busy with her own little
Well,
fandom around here.
either way.
Yeah,
it was-
Rocket will have a freaking
Hmm.
army of kid fans by the end of this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But just as all
Use
hope
the
is
children
lost.
as cannon fodder.
Like, I was just imagining Helm's freaking deep, but with our characters as the last doing the last stand, and then instead of Gandalf coming over the hill, it's freaking Rocket with an army of kids.
God.
Armed with slingshots.
With
Yeah.
slingshots and wooden swords and spears and toys. And it's like, all right, there are all the people down there who don't want you to play anymore.
So here's,
Get him.
Second.
I mean, if we're going with Lord of the Rings, does that make Nee our Legolas?
Kinda. In terms of general ability.
You are
anyway.
not denying physics.
And it is.
Denying physics. How does one shoot a bow while riding downstairs on a goddamn shield?
Yes.
Be a motherfucking elf.
Legolas is impossible in the movies.
Is an elf. Just
All the
you know.
times.
Yeah, it's not
I mean,
much
he
How
might
do you
as well
do it?
take
How
the bloody
pointy
ring.
is.
Power
if you're
of
the-
power he is.
Hey, Hades, if you're the Legolas, we need to get a Gimli in there.
No, Tom's the Legolas. I'm just the guy
Still
that
counts as one.
I'm just the guy that's there that cuts people's heads off.
So we need a Gimli then.
We don't have it. Well, I guess no, we can't.
Hmm.
Maybe Cogmine can be Cogmog or whatever, Cosmog or
Bit
whatever his
short
name
to be
is.
a
Cogmog.
dwarf.
It's Cogmog.
Cogmog.
Yeah.
Maybe Cogmog can be our Gimli.
Hard to tell. We haven't seen what he's like in gaming. We don't actually have a backstory written up for him yet. I'm gonna have to talk with Blank about that before next session.
He's got a gun,
Hmm.
so that's one thing.
I mean, he's an engineer and he fights with a flintlock
He
pistol.
may have a deep voice for this short little count.
I still say it's gonna be funny when he shoots that thing and he flies back a bit and does like a few backflips because of it.
I'm thinking of having Navy slightly disapproving of the gun, thinking of inelegant
Inelegant.
and clumsy.
I mean, what is a gun really, if not just a more efficient bow?
It certainly won't be a stealth weapon.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, it's a
definitely
friggin' musket, so it takes much longer to reload.
Yeah, I
That's
think
great. Hitting
I can
power.
imagine
out
it
of all
being-
of us, I think it'd probably be best to leave stealth to me and Tom.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I have
just
a
thinking-
3 stealth skill.
I think I have like a 2.
The reason why I'm laughing, I could imagine
Oh.
if you were hunting with your crossbow and then out of nowhere you hear gunfire.
And out
Yeah.
of nowhere,
And then-
the thing just gets
Yeah,
shot in the head.
The musket will have greater power, but it takes so much longer to reload, and it's not stealthy at all. So.
Yep. and
Also,
just gives the
speaking of
game away.
stealth, another thing we forgot to mention when we first encountered that the plague victim that
Oh,
attacked
yeah.
us, how we were all stealthing about, and in comes fucking Rocket just stomping in.
yeah.
Rocket is just the comic relief of the group. She has a habit of just
She-
epic fails.
Yeah, in just this one session, she's become the comic relief, heart and soul of the party.
Note this
And
Come
the
up
mask.
We
with
love her,
platform
and we
to-
just want to go, really? At the same time.
She's
yeah,
a cinnamon bun, and she must be protected at all costs.
yeah, you were all trying to sneak
Yeah.
closer to the guy who was, like, all infected and shit, trying not to alarm him. Rocket sees everyone moving all slowly, doesn't understand the significance, and just comes stumping over, just clunk, 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 clunk. What you doing?
Yeah, that. We definitely need to find a way to make that quiet.
We all just glared at her. Like,
Next time we just have Alcir keep Rocket in the next room.
Do you not know the meaning of subtlety?
No.
Well, to be fair, none of you told her to be quiet. She was busy looking for
Yeah.
booze.
I gave her like shh look, like
The-
I gave her hand gestures, universal hand gestures.
Well, she, she
I
said,
mean, chocobos don't have hands, so
Yeah.
we don't understand hand gestures.
she has
I
fest.
laugh.
Stupid, adorable chocobos.
I would
Stupid
even laugh
adorable
if she tries
chocobo.
to go stealthy by going super slow, but her metal leg's still making like a noise.
Eh. At the beginning of it, when we were introducing her character, I had it in the back of my head that I might just try this joke of, oh hey, look, it's lunch.
I'm surprised. I'm surprised you didn't use your chocobo whistle in retrospect.
Hmm.
I'm saving that for like maybe when like Rocket like runs off with a bunch of kids, and then we get like a whole big horde of infected come at the gates, and we have to protect it. And then I just pull out the whistles, like everyone's like, "What is that?" Watch, I blow it, and then Rocket just comes. What was that noise?
And like you blow it, and all of a sudden from like a nearby rooftop, chocobo, mechanical chocobo just comes, just boing, quee, and lands in the middle of all the bad guys, kicking up a cloud of dust. Everyone's falling to the ground like, quee, guys?
Well, looks like you've got competition. You think your scythe could take out that many?
Oh god.
Oh boy.
But no, it's gonna be funny. We've got our long range for Tom. Alcier is basically our white mage, gonna keep all of us alive. And then I'm just the muscle.
Rocket is also muscle, but she's also the heart and soul of the group. Cogmug will
True.
also be ranged, and he'll also be
Hmm.
your tinker, which means he'll probably be performing maintenance on Rocket whenever she gets damaged.
So
And
it's
none of
gonna
you
be
get any
mostly me
ideas
and
of
Rocket
answers
in the
on
front
her?
lines
I still
doing
need to study.
all that good melee damage.
You want to
That and I do have a
You-
fire spell.
Okay, you want to know the best part about Knee, though?
What?
Spoiler
Yeah.
warning for chapters 35 and on for Soaring on Little Wings if you haven't listened that far.
You're
then-
still a bastard
Yeah.
for suggesting this.
Yeah.
Someone tap me when he's done.
Yeah. Okay, so if
Proceed.
if you guys haven't, so if any of you listening haven't listened up to that and you want to, then go do that and come back. This is your only spoiler warning for Soaring on Little Wings in this reading. So in this particular instance, if you recall, in chapter 35 of Soaring on Little Wings, Little Wing is murdered by way of crossbow.
Yes.
Neothil uses a crossbow.
At
Indeed.
his suggestion.
I suggested it as perfect irony, and Tom agreed.
That is ironic. You know,
Yep.
I
I'm
begrudgingly agree because it works so well, but he's a bastard for suggesting it in the first place.
it's interesting that he puts it that way because when I heard elf, I was thinking like Legolas and the old bow and arrow.
Hmm.
No,
Well, are you back, Soviet? Before we say anything else about it?
To be fair, though, Tom, wasn't there a certain character? Well,
What?
died with a crossbow?
What?
In
What?
a little story of yours?
Don't. I'm just gonna say Soviet is back now, so don't mention anything more about what we just talked about.
Oh,
no.
I know what he's talking about. Long
It's not-
shot.
Yeah.
Oh, you're talking about Longshot. That's
yeah, that's a
From
different
Change.
Yeah, that's a different character.
Longshot was a character in Change who during the first Act 1 was a lot of people's favorites because he was like a little ice cracking asshole, but everyone loved him.
I loved
Um,
him. He was great.
He was
I
fun to
know,
voice too.
but
And then you killed him.
the end of Act 1, like a third of the way through the fic.
You will be missed.
And then he came back, like when Twilight had to go through all that, trying to get
Oh yeah,
Like-
like in a dream sequence.
in a dream sequence. Yeah.
Yep. Now that
Eventually, he shot the dream sequence version of Serpens in the head.
Whoa! I just realised the time. We got this going for about half an hour. We're doing well.
yeah.
Told you.
Yes.
I mean, there's a lot to talk about with Final Fantasy D6 and D&D sessions in general. Those conversations can go for a while.
Well, at least we won't be starved for content every time we do one of those.
Yeah.
Not next week, sadly.
So with
So
that,
shall-
so with that in mind, I think it's about time we move on from the topic of Final Fantasy D6. Though, Tom had another tabletop role-playing game session story he wanted to tell, so we'll turn the attention to him and let him tell that story. Tom, take the reins. Go for it.
All right, I've been sitting on this for a few weeks because of our equal amounts of computer troubles. But before Christmas, before I came home from university to spend time with my family, I sat down for a one-off session of Dragon Age roleplay in a pub.
In a pub.
So basically, it was the basic setting. Who knows Dragon Age here?
A little bit. I don't really
Maybe.
know it very well, but I know
A
enough
bit.
to at least understand the basics of it.
Do you know what the deep roads are?
I know that there are roads deep
Mhm.
under the ground that the dwarves fight the darkspawn in a lot.
Pretty much, they're one of the most dangerous places in the world. The basic premise is with like a dwarven noble had his son went out into the deep roads on an expedition, didn't come back. We're a group that's been sent in to find this son alive or dead, bring him back. I'm playing a Dalish elf because that's just traditional for in terms of Dragon Age for me. I was an elf in general. I always play elves in roleplay.
Hmm.
There was also along with us a Tevinter Magister who has been basically a slaver lord who happens to be like a dark mage, uses blood magic and shit. Two Canary warriors who are like, well, for those who don't know Dragon Age, they're fanatically religious warriors, and then just a human mage, a standard human mage from the Chantry. Obviously, when we first arrived, we entered the deep roads. There was a couple of enemies. It wasn't anything too bad. The first sign that things would get in trouble is that one of our Canary, played by one of my friends, he wanders off on his own in a complete opposite doorway to what we're looking in. Immediately gets jumped by a darkspawn. He kills it, and then opens another door, gets jumped by another darkspawn. Like, yeah, this is gonna be a thing for him. But while he's off having his own little misadventure, the rest of us are going in, and I'm arguing with the Magister a lot because my people are considered nothing but dirty slaves to him, and I consider him a freaking tyrant, so we're just at each other's throat constantly. But eventually we continued on. The Canary returns. We find a ruined cart with some crates. The second Canary starts putting a box on her head, puts a box on the other Canary's head, and then forces me to put a box on my head for no reason.
You just thought it looked funny?
Yeah, apparently.
Alright.
I tried to roll to stop, but I failed it. And during this, turns out that even though he can't use magic, the first Canary, who had been wandering off, has found a bunch of lyrium potions, which are mana potions, and has been stockpiling them and hoarding them, keeping them from the two magic users of the group who need it, and not telling us in character that he even has them. He's just being a bit of a dick, just for the sake of it, in character. But then we come across the remnants of a battle between like the dwarf nobles, soldiers, and the Darkspawn. We find one alive. We get him to safety. He kind of tells us what happened. During this, the first Canary finds a gauntlet that belongs to the prince as a family heirloom, like to our employers. So he promptly takes it and refuses to give it back. While we're dealing with this situation, the second Canary who put the boxes on heads previously wanders off. We don't know where she's gone.
Does she get jumped by Darkspawn in a doorway?
We will find out what this troll was doing.
Oh, boy.
I also find like the prince's crown. I put this in my bag and intend to keep it safe to give it back. We then demand the Canary gives back both the gauntlets, because we don't want to get freaking lynched for trying to steal a family heirloom, and the lyrium potions to the mages who need it. He refuses and tries to escape with them out of the deep roads. So we chase him down, beat the shit out of him, take everything he has, and then send him on his way naked.
Oh.
Which is the end of that character.
This sounds like a very fun role play.
It was. It was just a one-off, so we're having fun of it.
Nice.
So we then return. I then find out what the other Canary was doing, because you know how people do that, like, water bucket on top of a door frame prank?
Oh.
She'd done that, but with a bucket of entrails.
Oh.
And I was the first to open the door.
Oh. You have my sympathies.
Yeah.
Disgusting.
As I said, she is a troll. God damn it.
Troll.
At this point, we find my friend's new character, who we find locked up in a crate, just randomly down there. Apparently, who is an eccentric Orlesian, who kind of like the French, they're really posh, locked in the crate. Apparently, was dumped in the deep roads by his people for being annoying. So, now was my phone going off? Don't need that. We then come on a massive. Yeah, we have a massive corridor next that's just filled to the brim with traps. And there are traps absolutely everywhere. I've like detected them. The second Kanari just walks through the room, no problem, and avoids every single one without even looking. Just by complete bullshit luck rolls. The Elysian freaking applauds this and encourages this. We have to stop him from doing the same. At this point, the Magister and I, who naturally should be natural enemies, are actually agreeing with each other because these two characters are pissing us off so much that we're now teaming up against them. Like, you made the complete most natural enemies of this universe unite. That's how troubling they're being. So we disarm the traps one by one, get through. We then find the boss area where the prince is being held by a dwarven darkspawn broodmother, which is basically a massive thing that used to be a dwarven female, which now breeds darkspawn like jackrabbits, like tentacles all formed.
We've seen enough hentai to know where this is going.
Not quite. But so yeah, we need to rescue the noble, which is currently in one of the tentacles. This opens up by the Orlesian noble having the Canary throw him at the boss so he can grope its boobs.
God. A true hero indeed.
I mean,
also,
kudos for having priorities, but
Yeah, those are important priorities, man.
What a fucking...
Alright, but yeah.
Why?
So that happened. Obviously, at this point, I'm just ignoring them. They just do what they say. I snipe the tentacle that's holding the noble using my crossbow, because obviously I'm a ranger. As always, which frees him. He's unconscious. However, at this point, the Canary picks me up. I failed the checks to stop this, and he throws me at the boss.
Uh-oh.
Luckily, I managed to kind of turn it around by drawing my two short swords, digging them into the boss and kind of sliding down its side.
Liddy.
So at this point, the Magister was casting the Doomsday Fireball, his strongest spell, to fire at the thing. And yes, the Elysian Noble was in the way, but in his own words, nothing of value would be lost. However, the spell fails. He fails the damage roll. He managed to cast it, but the damage roll kind of was crit, so it just didn't do anything. So at this point, I run back towards the noble and get him to safety. The mages start just firing firebolts at them. The Orlesian noble continues to grope needlessly, and then the Canary just kind of sits on the side and watches. Eventually, we do manage to kill the boss. We rescue the noble, and we get out. You get paid. Everything's dandy. We can finally go our separate ways. And then in the epilogue, months later, we are drafted to fight the Blight at the beginning of Dragon Age, and we all died during the ambush at the beginning of that game. The end.
Oh, brutal.
That's how that goes.
Yeah, well, that's disappointing, but all right. Kind of a shame because the natural enemies of the universe were united in that group.
Yep.
Although I've heard
An
that
eccentric Orlesian and a Canary.
Although I've heard from multiple sources that isn't the Dragon Age role-playing game kind of horribly balanced? One of the classes is way too powerful and the others are kind of useless.
I wouldn't know. I've only played it the one time.
Yeah, I don't know. I've just heard that the classes are kind of not well balanced. Yeah, either way. So
I think one of my other friends is the one who was running it. I think he kind of balances himself.
That makes sense. Anyways, we have one more prearranged topic for today. And that is getting the audience a bit more up to speed on Twin Peaks, that sort of a play-by-post role play that, Tom, Hades, Blank Page, and I do in our off time. We've got...
And we can get him to post.
Anyways, as things stand, we have definitely made some very noteworthy progress. So, if you will permit me a moment here, I will... just to recap what happened before we got to this point, Day 0 saw the group all of our characters in this game, in the story, coming together in the newly established settlement of Twin Peaks, which I maintain its name was a complete coincidence when you consider there's an American TV show, horror-based, centered around a town of the same name. I swear, I didn't even know that show existed until after I had come up with this.
Pure coincidence.
Yeah, that happens a lot, but anyways.
If you have a device to watch said show, I would suggest it. It is actually fascinating.
Yeah, well. Anyways, so following this act, so the group sort of, they all came together, and each of us has 2 characters that we control. We have just a regular settler and a person who's on the town's organizational committee.
Well, Blank doesn't.
No, yeah, he doesn't have that. He controls a guy and a dog.
Woof.
Woof. Yes, Scruffy. Anyway, all right, so sorry, I dropped something and I wanted to move it. So and Day 1 saw the group, the town sent a lot of ponies out to kind of scout the surrounding environments. This is a pony thing, by the way.
Clearly.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that we were talking about not pony shit for the last 45 minutes. Anyways.
And now we're actually talking about pony shit.
Yes. So, they sort of sent a lot of ponies to go out and explore the surrounding environment, check for good harvesting points, maybe mines or ore deposits or caves or places that would be good for starting farms or gathering resources, water harvesting and acquisition,
Yada, yada.
et cetera, et cetera. Just anything and everything that could be used to help build this town and make it self-sustaining. Because, chances are they're probably going to have the occasional supply caravan coming in to keep it going until it can sustain itself.
Yeah.
That would be
One of the things we're trying to do, my character in particular wants to set up a general store to get an economy starting to roll.
Yeah. Well, and on that first day, while they were out and about, one of my characters, Crowcaller, and one of Hades' characters, Moonlight, I believe,
Yes.
were going with one of Tom's characters, Storm Chaser, out to scout out, and they found, plenty of beautiful landscape in this unexplored landscape. And while they were out there, at one point gathering a bunch of water and nuts and grapes from this beautiful lake and surrounding landscape, they heard a scream, and they went to see what happened a little ways up the river that led into that lake, and they found a pony who was, unfortunately, quite frozen into the river. For some reason, even though it's the height of summer, there was just this huge block of ice over the river, and a pony had gotten his leg caught in it, and he was, for one thing, starting to develop frostbite and hypothermia. He was panicking and terrified and confused as all hell, muttering about some kind of blue thingy. They eventually managed to get his leg out, and they brought him back to camp, and Crowcaller was just horribly shaken by this. She's almost like the Fluttershy of the group, with the added bonus that you can bribe her with bread.
Yeah. And might be having a slight romance thing in the future.
We'll see. Anyway.
Oh, it'll start with that bread, that damn bread.
Anyways, after that, the group kind of all came together. The committee members discussed what had happened and discerned and inferred that the ice freezing over was probably some rogue unicorn who had, a criminal who had come out here to hide from the law, and now that there was actual ponies starting to encroach, he was getting defensive. They figured, well, let's find him, kick his ass, put him in chains, and send him back to Canterlot so we don't have to deal with him anymore. And a sound enough plan, except it's not a pony. And so begins Day 2, the day we are currently on. As events have transpired, a search party was sent out consisting of Storm Chaser, a few randos, including a pony named Tourmaline. It also had Moonlight. It had Rise the Zebra, Sprout, his dog Scruffy. Am I missing anyone?
Wait,
think
the
that's
dog's name Gruffy.
Yes, I didn't name it.
Yeah.
Blame blank.
Yes.
Anyways,
You know, that's what one of my parents call me.
Gruffy.
yeah, well,
Yes.
no. Anyways,
My reply is I am not Scruffy.
So yeah, it's Rise, Tourmaline, Moonlight, Sprout, Stormchaser,
and some randos.
and some randos.
That did nothing.
Well,
Nothing did die in it.
yeah.
Scruffy. Yeah.
Anyways, they go back to the river where it all happened and followed it up a little ways, and they find this cave. Presumably, this is the cave where the rogue unicorn is hiding, and they start going into it. As they're going, they task Tourmaline with, scratching off turns so that they know where to go and where they've been. And after a while, they come to this large chamber. It's really fucking cold. They're all really on edge. Something isn't right. Tourmaline sees something moving, and before he can really make out exactly what it is, it tackles him and yanks him out of the chamber, kicking, screaming, and gushing blood faster than any of them can react. Stormchaser
Also rams through Rise, who lets off a shot of this one of a kind Minotaur musket,
fights.
which is like one of the most rarest and most powerful things you can find out there. Like he got it from before Twin Peaks, and it did nothing.
Yeah,
like,
it did
It
absolutely
was
nothing.
useless.
Useless.
It bounced off.
Anyways, so Stormchaser, going into a Rainbow Rage, chases because like Rainbow Dash is
A
her eyes,
rainbow ring.
goes into a Rainbow Rage and chases after Tourmaline and the monster that had dragged him away, kicking, screaming, and bleeding bloody murder.
Making one of the horror movie mistakes.
Yep. Well, they chase after her, and eventually they find her pinned to the wall with ice. The creature
No,
sort of
to the ground.
Ground.
It's on the ground.
I was imagining the wall art, and the creature kind of looming over her, and Tourmaline's corpse, so mutilated it's barely even recognizable as having ever even been a pony, much less Tourmaline is nearby, and the creature has been observed to have been stuffing bits of Tourmaline into Stormchaser's mouth, and
Not
she's
even quite the same, because the one that they encountered earlier had been physical. This one was a ghostly equine figure.
Either way, no matter how you slice it, Stormchaser now has bits of pony in her stomach. The ghostly creature disappeared at that point. The group got Stormchaser out of the ice, checked her over. She's not in good shape. Tourmaline's mangled beyond repair, and it's probably best to just leave him so they don't incur any territorial wrath. They turned tail and fucked right off. Back at camp.
Scruffy vanished.
Back at camp.
And the dog's always.
Yeah, and back at camp, Crowcollar's been doing her best to keep herself distracted from the harrowing events of the previous day by helping gather a bunch of resources. And it seemed to be working, and she was even bribed into doing well with the promise of an additional serving of soup later that night, because you can bribe Crowcollar with food. I think that's one of her most endearing character traits, because it gives me the excuse to have her say nom a lot.
Nom. God.
Nom. Anyways, but where we last left off, one of the randos was brought forward to sort of announce to everyone that, hey, Tourmaline's dead, Stormchaser's in a load of shit, the group's coming in, we're gonna need medical attention, and yeah, it's not a unicorn.
Yeah.
And where we last left off, Skystar, one of the committee members, had just ordered that guards be put up around the borders to keep any hostile threats out and the ponies inside safe.
Yeah. Mostly when we first found Stormchaser's wing is frozen completely, so she's probably going to lose that,
Oh, yeah, probably.
among other stuff that's going to happen.
Yep. We have plans.
May I just point out that back in the cave, when they first saw the ghostly creature, Moonlight lost her shit, and being a bat pony, decided to shriek.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ow. Like that.
And yes, it hurt all of the others'
Didn't do
ears
anything
and didn't
do it.
affect the thing at all.
yeah, it doesn't have physical ears.
Yeah.
That one.
Like
Yeah.
a noticed,
And-
but good.
And then Moonlight was traumatized and Rise had to snap her out of it.
Yes, and Rise actually rhymed.
Oh yeah, he hates doing that, but he does it when he's tense and
I
scared.
I love how I made that a character trait of Moonlight. When she gets panicked, like that. She tends to screech like that.
Yeah. It's like when
it's a
Rise
reflex.
gets flustered, he starts rhyming, which only flusters him more because he hates rhyming. Finds it as one of the most useless parts of zebra culture.
If we were so deft, we would have left.
Yeah.
Damn it! Now I'm rhyming.
It's like, God damn it, now I'm rhyming. It's so funny. Oh, it was.
They're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Except the
Not
dog.
mine.
So
Well, of course
many
the dog's
ponies
never
are gonna die.
Well, you
Oh,
already.
yeah.
Well, we technically already killed Tone once.
Yeah, you killed a rando that I made specifically for the purpose of dying. Tourmaline was a red shirt. It says in his character bio, his purpose in the story is to die.
He was Wendigo, babe.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
He was the red shirt. I was tempted to name him red shirt, but that would be too on the nose.
Yeah, he was. I think people will catch on if we ever do anything with this, well, the transcript. People will catch on. Like, who's this guy that's just suddenly show up? Oh dear. Rip.
Oh,
Press
yeah.
F.
Nah.
Spam the chat with F.
I was gonna bring up you did mention that one of them was force-fed mutilated parts of the other. Is that going to somehow tie into something like a Wendigo down the line?
I mean,
We just that's
Maybe.
Not like the show's explanation of a Wendigo, but like more
we're
Native American mythology.
We're hybridizing both of them together to be the same entity in this context.
All
and
right.
technically they are. That's what the show are meant to be. They just kind of glossed over like the whole bringing winter thing and all of that, and starving people. That's all part of the Native American mythology. They just left out.
They left
part of
out
why
the
they starve people.
Because
the
it's for
mandatory part
kids.
of cannibalism.
It's in my head canon that's the part of hearthwarming that's not in the history books because kids.
Because
The
kids.
reason why the Wendigos were actually starving people.
To try and force the ponies into cannibalism, which wouldn't have worked because they're herbivores. They can't
Well,
digest.
desperation. They just
Desperation
desperation on
They
that.
wouldn't have even been able to digest the meat. It wouldn't have done anything for them. It would have been pointless.
You'd be surprised
know.
what you do when you're hungry enough, Tom.
I mean, we're omnivores.
Yeah.
We can digest meat, even human meat. And get this, eating human meat isn't actually illegal. Most ways of acquiring human meat is, but actually consuming it, it's not illegal.
I
It's
don't
still-
think people
it's
would
still
be
taboo.
thrilled.
It's definitely
Yeah.
still taboo, but it's not illegal.
I think that's kind of so a little less morale.
It's more. It's less
Yeah.
about law. more
Also,
about
some
morality.
breeds of horses can digest meat, just not very well.
Hmm.
It makes
Yeah.
them very sick.
I mean, again, herbivores are not supposed to eat meat,
Hmm.
but it all just depends. Like, freaking Fallout Equestria, they sometimes ate meat.
yeah,
Like that was how Little Pip started, apparently, was just by eating meat wherever she could. She liked it.
yeah,
and
she didn't even know
Velvet
the
was
significance
horrified.
till Velvet tried to, explain how it wasn't a great idea, and then Velvet didn't care.
It's like,
They just didn't care.
it's like,
Bacon, yo.
it's like,
Watch Calamity just shove hot dogs in his mouth.
it's like, yeah, I'm just gonna keep eating this cooked iguana that I shot and killed. All right.
I'll
And
be
then
too
Velvet's
picky in a
just
post-op.
It's so funny listening to
But
Velvet.
yeah, Storm Chase is so screwed.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
she's fucked.
Yeah, she's fucked.
Yeah, and they brought her into town. Or they're going to. Oh no.
She'll probably be kept on observation.
Well,
Moonlight-
yeah, but they're not going to be observing her guards because they're expecting her to turn. They don't know that yet.
I mean, Moonlight's gonna be around her probably a majority of the time.
Oh, well, that means the
Probably
next.
amputating that wing.
Well, that means the next pony to die is probably going to be Moonlight.
No.
Yeah, just so you know,
No.
the person closest is going to be the first person getting their face ripped off.
Yeah, no.
So bear that in mind before you
Like,
start.
As we said in the rules, you only die if we all agree.
Or if you put yourself in a situation where you can't live.
I can. Moonlight's quick. She can get out of the way.
Like, there's no Deus Ex Machinas here.
I can
Yeah.
stick her with a shot and tranquilize her or something.
Just make sure you put Moonlight in a position where she can live. Because if you put her right next to Storm doing a medical thing, the moment she turns, no, there won't be a time. It would just be
Probably not Probably not when she turns. I was thinking like maybe have her amputate the frozen wing because that's pretty much not savable at this point.
Well,
And then just like have her sleeping in the medical tent or whatever, and then she turns.
I'll
Well-
figure out when
I
she
mean-
turns, because Storm is my character.
Well, on all of that morbid stuff, it is time for this episode of Jibber Jabber to end. We just hit the hour mark. So, thank you all, ladies and gentlemen, for tuning in. We'll see you all next week. Keep listening, people. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
everybody.
Ben is stupid.
You beat me to it, you son of a bitch!